Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dina Akasha, and I'm back with my educational videos. And today, inshallah, we are going to discuss calculus. Tamam. And I guess calculus will take us 2 to 3 videos. Today, this video is about calculus part 1. Calculus part 1. Now, first, we need to understand what does calculus discuss in math. Calculus discusses in math anything related to curves, gradients, and questions related to that. Okay. Now, calculus is mainly divided into two major parts. Okay. Integration, which is not our specialty, integration in O level. This is in AS and in further math, A2. So this is not what we're going to discuss today. And differentiation. Okay, differentiation, and differentiation is to be discussed in O level and of course in AS and in A2. So this is what we are going to discuss today. تمام. Let's clear all this and write over here differentiation. Now the word differentiation, as you can see, comes from the word different, comes from the word difference, معناها change. فلو هنقول مثلا احنا عايزين to explain يعني ايه كلمة differentiation أو from where did we get the word differentiation. Differentiation, as we said, comes from the word different, comes from the word difference. Differentiation معناها change, certain change that happens. Before we get into our topic today, وطبعا زي ما انتم متعودين على الفيديوهات بتاعتي احنا دايما بناخد الحاجة بالتفصيل كده وبالراحة يعني. let me just remind you a reminder of a question that we discussed in the topic harder graphs. Okay, لو أي حد بياخد O level, they should be familiar with this question over here. When we discussed the topic harder graphs, there was this question over here that says كان بيديله كده y axis و x axis وكان بيبقى فيه curve مرسوم كده أيا كان يعني شكل الكيرف, and the question was Q يعني question, find the gradient of the curve at x equals 2. Or طبعا it doesn't have to be 2, ممكن تكون أي حاجة. That was a question that we discussed in harder graphs. So let's just remember together, how did we solve this question? And if you look at this example, you will find that the equation, EQN يعني equation يا جماعة, that the equation of the curve is not given. I'm just given الرسمة as you can see. I'm just given الرسمة. Yeah, I'm just given the graph as you can see. فكنا بنحل السؤال ده ازاي if you remember يعني. كنا بنروح عند ال x-axis at 2 and then I go up the curve to find this point over here, and then at this point I would draw a tangent, and then طبعا the tangent شوية شكله weird يعني I would draw a tangent, and then I would calculate the gradient of this tangent using the rule اللي هي y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so if you remember this from harder graph, only the question, please remember this question carefully. Find the gradient of the curve at x equals 2. So what we did back then is that I went to the x-axis, to the value 2, up the curve, drew a tangent, and since this tangent is a line, I picked 2 points on the tangent, regardless what are these 2 points, and then I used this rule over here. تمام؟ طيب تعالوا بقى ايه نيجي عند الرول دي ونقف شوية ونغير السيمبل بتاعها. تعالوا نيجوا عند الرول ونقف شوية ونغير السيمبل بتاعها. y2 minus y1 is the difference between the y's, لأنه the word difference in math means minus. So y2 minus y1 معناها the difference in y's, معناها the difference in y's. طيب, the first letter of the difference or the first letter of differentiation is D. So difference in y, I will write it as dy. And then we will do the same thing with the x. زي ما قلت لكم يا جماعة أنا بعمل إيه دلوقتي؟ أنا I am finding another symbol for the gradient. Okay. Now again, let's apply the same thing on the x's. كل ده introduction على فكرة يعني أنا ما بحبش أبتدي درس كده. This is all an introduction. Now let's apply the same thing on the x's. أنا هنا this could be written as difference in x. وزي ما اتفقنا difference in x يعني difference يعني minus. The first letter here is D. So x2 minus x1 could be written as dx. So dy means difference in y. dx means difference in x. What does this symbol represent? What does this symbol represent? This symbol over here represents the gradient of the tangent drawn on the curve. This symbol represents the gradient of the tangent on the curve. What will I be required to do in this topic يعني طبعا مع اختلاف الأسئلة اللي هندسكسها في خلال الفيديو. We will be required to find the gradient of this tangent if I am given the equation of the curve and there is no drawing. يبقى أنا I will find the gradient of the tangent without the drawing if I have the equation of the curve. And what did we introduce? We introduced this symbol over here اللي هو ال dy by dx. So this slide was all about introduction. طيب من هنا بقى نبتدي الكلام. يبقى نيجي بقى to the very important thing that I want you to remember and never forget is that the symbol that we are going to discuss بقى today اللي هو ال dy over ال dx. What does this symbol represent? It represents the gradient of what? It represents the gradient of a tangent on any curve. It represents the gradient of the tangent at any curve, on any curve. فدي اللي هنفوكس عليها دلوقتي. طبعا هي بيبقى ليها symbol تاني بيستعملوه في ال AS بس خلينا في ال O level زي ما احنا. طبعا as we always do, our topic will be divided into parts. Now we are going to discuss question number 1. And question number 1 is, how do I find dy by dx? How do I find dy by dx? يعني أنا لو جاني, if I am given an equation of a curve and the question says, find dy by dx. dy by dx is ماشي هتقولوا لي يا miss it represents the gradient تمام بس الانسر بتاع dy by dx is not always a number. The answer of dy by dx is not always a number تمام. It could be an algebraic expression. It could be an algebraic expression or it could be a number على حسب الايكويشن اللي عندي. طبعا بالتالي احنا كلنا عارفين يعني ايه algebraic expression. Algebraic expression يعني الإجابة بتاعتي بيبقى فيها letter x. ده معنى كلمة algebraic expression. طيب in order for us to find dy by dx عندنا 4 cases that you have to know. Case A, case B, case C, and case D. In this video I will discuss the first 3 cases وcase D I will leave it in for another video. فيبقى دلوقتي خلينا نشوف case A تمام. And let's see what does case A say. وزي ما اتفقنا يا جماعة دلوقتي احنا هنعرف how to find dy by dx. تعالوا نشوف example. يجي الexaminer يقول لي y equals 2x power 3. The question is find dy by dx. Find dy by dx. How do I find dy by dx؟ تمام كده؟ ركزوا معايا يا جماعة والنبي. اوكي؟ دي كيس A اللي احنا مشغلين فيها دلوقتي. اوكي؟ To find dy by dx for a power of x that is not 1. To find dy by dx for a power of x that is not 1. هنزل أضرب minus 1. هنزل أضرب minus 1. يعني إيه هنزل أضرب minus 1؟ يعني I take the power of x multiply by the coefficient ونقصه 1. Take the power of x multiplied by the coefficient and decrease this power by 1. So 3 times 2, 6. طبعا you must write better. And then 3 minus 1 is a 2. فده كده إيه؟ ده الجريدينت. of the tangent on the curve. طب يا مس وبعدين خلي وبعدين احنا يا جماعة بناخد دايما كل حاجة one step at a time. Now we're just focused on how to find dy by dx. If you wait 10 to 15 minutes هتشوفوا بعد كده بعد ما بنطلع ال dy by dx ده لازمته ايه؟ أنا why do I find it؟ هنشوف كمان شوية. Let's just now focus on case 1. اوكي أو اللي هي case A. تعالوا ناخد another example. يجي مثلا يقول لي y equation of curve y equals مثلا negative 4x power 5. Now this is an equation of a curve. طبعا how do I know for a fact إنه it's an equation of the curve؟ إنه the power of x is not 1. تمام؟ What is case A؟ Case A أهو تاني هنقولها تاني أهو. Case A, the power of the x is not 1. The power of the x is not 1. أنا ما بقولش greater than 1. أنا بقول not 1 وخلاص. طيب if the power of x is not 1, how do I find dy by dx؟ قلنا هنزل أضرب minus 1. يعني إيه هنزل أضرب minus 1؟ Take the coefficient. Take the power. Multiply by the coefficient. تمام كده؟ So 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. And then write the letter. And what do I do with this power? Subtract 5 minus 1, which is 4. ده ايه كده؟ ده ال differentiation. هعمل بيه ايه؟ كمان شوية هنشوف هنعمل بيه ايه. Yeah, let's take another example. يجي مثلا هنا يقول لي y equals x over 2. تمام. مثلا هنا عندي باور كام مثلا يا جدعان؟ باور 3 اهو. تاني لا عملنا 3. خلينا نحط اي باور، نحط مثلا 8 حاجه زي كده. يا مس هنا مفيش coefficient. لا هنا في. خدوا بالكم ان this could be written as half x power 8. It is exactly the same. تمام كده؟ طيب where is the question of the day? The question of the day is find dy by dx. قلنا if the power of x is not 1 هنزل أضرب minus 1. Take the power, multiply by the coefficient ونقص 1. So 8 times half is 4. You must write the letter x to the power of a, x to the power of 7. One more example. يجي مثلا يقول لي y equals مثلا 5x to the power of negative 1. يا مس ما هي 1 اهي. لا احنا قلنا الباور مش 1 ايا كان بقى، ممكن يبقى fraction، ممكن يبقى اي حاجه not 1. هنعمل ايه؟ how do I find the differentiation؟ قلنا هنزل اضرب minus 1. negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. x to the power of negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. And this is case number A. How would we find an expression for the dy by dx? Later on هنشوف بنعمل بيه ايه. لازم نشرح الأول case A وcase B وcase C. دي case A. تعالوا نشوف case B. طيب and I'm going to remind you with something that you took in coordinate geometry. لو أنا كتبت لكم حاجة زي كده y equals 7x minus 3. طبعا you must all وأتمنى طبعا إن انتوا you remember that this is the equation of the line اللي هي y equals mx plus c. This is the equation of the line. And how do I confirm إنه it's the equation of the line? Because as you can see the power of x is 1. فكنا أخذنا في الcoordinate geometry إنه if you are given an equation of a line and you are required to find the gradient, if you remember, only the gradient is the coefficient of x. The gradient is the coefficient of x, and the coefficient of x over here is 7. So the gradient is 7. طيب, can I change the letter m into dy by dx? Yes, of course I can. لأن احنا قلنا the differentiation is the gradient. So if I ask you the question differently, instead of saying find the m, لو أنا جيت قلت لكم find dy by dx, ما هو يا جدعان dy by dx is the gradient. So what is dy by dx? 7. تمام؟ يعني إيه? To cut the story short, if you have an equation and the power of x is 1, and this is case B. If you have an equation and the power of x is 1, your differentiation is شيل الx. طبعا based on what we explained over here. Okay? So what is case B? Case B اللي هي if the power of x is 1. If the power of x is 1, your differentiation is شيل x. Remove the x as the x is not there. So let me give you an example. جيت قلت لكم y equals 3 over 4x. And the question says find dy by dx. So what is dy by dx over here immediately? The coefficient على طول. Another example, y equals negative x. And the question here says find dy by dx. يا مس هنا ما فيش رقم جنب الاكس. لا ازاي؟ في رقم جنب الاكس طبعا اللي هو مين؟ negative 1. So what is dy by dx? Negative 1. So case B, if the power of x is 1, يبقى ايه your differentiation is شيل x based on the fact اللي هي بتاعت y equals mx plus c. Now we're going to discuss بقى the last case اللي هي case C أو the last case of this video I mean اللي هي case C اللي هي لو أنا جيت قلت لكم مثلا y equals 5. Find the differentiation. And this equation over here is called a constant value. This equation over here is called a constant equation. طيب برضو we need to remember always and forever that the differentiation represents the gradient. So if I asked you, is this a line? Your answer will be definitely it's a line. And your answer will be even more specific that this is a horizontal line. That this is a horizontal line. And if you remember, the gradient of any horizontal line is equal to 0. The gradient of any horizontal line is equal to 0. So basically, if you are given a constant value, and you are required to find dy by dx, the differentiation for constant values, always and forever, is 0. Why? Based on this fact over here. إنه this equation is a horizontal line and the gradient of any horizontal line is 0. يعني, for example, لو أنا جيت قلت لكم y equals 3 and the question here says find dy by dx. If your equation is a constant value, then the differentiation is 0. يبقى case A هنزل أضرب minus 1 اللي هي لو الباور مش 1. Case B, if your power is 1, your differentiation is شيل x. Case C, for constant values, your differentiation is 0. Now, what we're going to do is that we are going to combine all three together. All three cases together. تمام كده؟ اللي هي case A, power of x not 1. How do I differentiate? هنزل أضرب minus 1. Case B, if the power of x is 1, your differentiation is شيل x. Case C, if your equation is a constant value, and what do I mean by constant value? من الآخر يعني y equals رقم, your differentiation always and forever is equal to 0. So let's combine all of these together. So if I am given an equation مثلا that looks like this, y equals x power 3 minus 4x power 2 plus 7x minus مثلا half. And the question here says find dy by dx. لأنه this is يا جماعة دي أهم حاجة عندنا في الدرس. How do we find dy by dx? أهو. These two represent case A. تمام؟ لأنه power as you can see is not 1. Is not 1. So هنا where is the coefficient? والنبي يا جماعة ما حدش يقول لي مس هنا ما فيش رقم. لا في رقم. The number is 1. وكلمة coefficient أنا بس عايزة أأكد عليها عشان في ناس مش عارفاها. كلمة coefficient is the number on the left of the letter. The number on the left hand side multiplied by the letter. So هنزل أضرب minus 1. So 3 times 1, 3x squared. هنزل أضرب minus 1 يعني 3 times 1 and then you subtract the power. Again, أهو هنزل أضرب minus 1. 2 times negative 4, negative 8. You must write the letter. 2 minus 1 is 1. تمام؟ وهنا if the power is 1, your differentiation, as we said, is شيل x. And for constant values, your differentiation is a 0. طبعا إحنا هنا we don't write the 0. So this is how we differentiate. تمام كده؟ طبعا هنحل شوية أسئلة. طيب يبقى إحنا this is the first question of the day اللي هو how do I differentiate? And this is what we discussed now. How do I differentiate? Now let's move on to قبل ما ندخل على النوتس يعني ونحل، عشان ما نبقاش بنحل كده يعني ادخل النوتس مرة واحدة. Let's move on now to question number 2 اللي هو why do I differentiate? Why do I find dy by dx? أو what are the questions that will follow find dy by dx؟ تمام كده؟ وهحطها هنا يا جماعة دايما always and forever. dy by dx, as we said, represents the gradient of the tangent on the curve. So why do I find dy by dx? Let me just give you a very small equation over here. مثلا ناخد ايه مثلا y equals x power 2 مثلا plus 5x مثلا for example plus 6 حاجة زي كده. طبعا if you remember that this is a quadratic equation. This is a quadratic equation. تمام. And actually this equation over here, according to the topic hard graphs and according to the topic completing the square, قلنا any quadratic equation which has a maximum power of 2, if I wish to represent it graphically, I will get a U shape. And this U shape will be either open up or open down. طبعا if you remember يا جماعة, this will be open up because the coefficient of x power 2 is positive. تمام؟ طيب. Let's see the questions related. طبعا question number 1 هيقول لي find dy by dx. And I guess now, after we have explained cases A, B, and C, you will all be able to find dy by dx. طبعا هنا, how do I find dy by dx? قلنا أول واحدة نمسح بس دي. Okay. هنا هنزل أضرب minus 1. هنزل أضرب minus 1. So your differentiation is 2x. وقلنا if the x has a power of 1, your differentiation is A, شيل ال x. So this is the differentiation. أهو. That's dy by dx. طيب. وقلنا what does this expression represent? It represents the gradient of the tangent. Let's see all the questions that you might be asked after you find dy by dx. The first thing that you might be asked after finding dy by dx, يجي الexaminer يقول لي ايه? Find the gradient of the find the gradient of the curve at x, for example, equals to 3. Find the gradient of the curve at x equals to 3. أنا صراحة يفرق معايا قوي 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 إن أنتوا تبقوا فاهمين. Now, let's first understand what do I mean by finding the gradient of the curve at x equals 3. معناها إيه دي؟ معناها إيه؟ What does it mean? معناها إنه if my curve is drawn on the coordinate plane, if I go to x equals to 3 and I draw a tangent at this curve over here, what will be the gradient of this tangent? This is what it means. تمام كده؟ طيب, how do I solve? راحت فين الصفحة? How do I solve بقى? Now, as you can see, your differentiation is given in terms of x. And I am given an x value. فالمنطق بيقول, انتوا قولوا بقى, what do you think we're going to do over here? If the x is given, يبقى you substitute in your differentiation. If the x is given, you substitute in the differentiation. So your answer will be هشيل الx دي وحط مكانها 3. That's it. خلاص خلص الموضوع. تمام؟ ف 2 times 3 plus 5. 2 times 3 6. 6 plus 5 is 11. So أهو. This tangent has a gradient of 11 من غير ما نرسمها. تعالوا نعمل another example related to type 1 of questions. هنقول مثلا this is type 1 of questions اللي هو the x is given and you substitute. So let's go to the notes بقى together. If you're using يعني my notes. طبعا أنا I have this page ready and displayed for you. تمام. Page number 307 in the notes. These are the 3 cases that we discussed today. Case A. لا مش case B, sorry. احنا عايزين بس احنا عملنا, أنا سميتهم يمكن العكس دول. These are the 3 cases that we discussed today. دي هنعملها في another video. So these are the 3 cases أهو that we discussed, and this is in your notes, page number 307. تمام. Let's take an example over here about the first type of questions اللي هي question number 309 in your notes. Question number 309 in your notes. أول سؤال طبعا, as you can see, the first question here says find dy by dx. Again, this is a quadratic equation. And why is it a quadratic equation? عشان the maximum power is 2. The coefficient of x power 2 is positive 4. Then this is a U-shape. Open up. This is for you to know. Question A says find dy by dx. تمام. قلنا لو الباور مش 1 هنزل أضرب minus 1. So the differentiation is 2 times 4, 8. And طبعا you have to write the letter x. ليه بكتب letter x? عشان letter x عنده power, which is 1. طيب for if x قلنا power 1 يبقى your differentiation is شيل الx. وصراحة هنا أنا عمالة بفكر عايزة أقولها. ما احنا قلنا يا جماعة هنا أهو the differentiation is شيل الx which is 2. Even if I apply أنزل أضرب minus 1 عشان الناس اللي بتحب تفهم. If I apply أنزل أضرب minus 1, 1 times 2 is 2. 1 minus 1 is what? 0. فهتبقى x power 0. ما هو x power 0 بكام؟ ب 1. فهيتبقى لي بس مين؟ ال 2. حبيت أقولها بس برضو علشان إيه؟ لو عايزين تفهموها أكتر يعني. بس إحنا إيه بننجز وبنقول if the power is 1 then your differentiation is شيل ال x. For constant values your differentiation is 0. Of course we don't need to write this 0 over here. So أهو this is your differentiation. طيب تعالوا نشوف question number B. Question B says find the gradient. Find the gradient يعني أنا هحسبه. Find the gradient of the curve when x is equal to 2. Whenever the question says find the gradient and the x is given, means that you substitute in here immediately. أهو. تمام؟ السؤال ده حلو يعني. هنا أهو the x is given. So when the x is given, you substitute immediately. So 8 times 2 minus 4. 8 times 2, 16. 16 minus 4 is كام؟ 12. طبعا differentiation is not that simple. بس احنا بناخد الأسئلة زي ما احنا عارفين دايما في الفيديوز بالتدريج. يعني ايه الكلام ده؟ قلنا يعني عند x ب 2 في tangent الجريدينت بتاعه بكام؟ ب 12. Let's continue to question number C and look at question number C. Question C says what? Find the gradient. ايه ده برضو؟ Find the gradient. Find the gradient عشان بس نبقى متفقين على الكي ووردز والنبي. متفقين على الكي ووردز. Whenever the question says find the gradient معناها I substitute in the differentiation. In order for me to substitute in the differentiation I must have the x. الx لازم تبقى موجودة. يبقى again find the gradient means substitute in the differentiation. To substitute in the differentiation I must have the x. In question B ايه الخط ده? In question B the x was given clearly. طب question C بقى تعالوا نقراه كده مع بعض. قال لي find the gradient of the curve at the point where y is equal to 0. ايه ده؟ انت مديني الواي؟ طب y مديني الواي؟ y is equal to 0. طب انا مش عايزه الواي، انا عايزه مين؟ الاكس. Actually I want you to pause a bit and think about it. انا هنا I am given the y. طب انت ليه مديني الواي اذا انا عايزه الاكس؟ يبقى اكيد this given will help me. ايه ده؟ This given will help me find the equation, the x. فبص بقى هنعمل ايه؟ I am given the y. If I take this y and I substitute in the original equation, طلع لي equation اقدر اعمل لها modify 3، اقدر اطلع منها الاكس، اقدر substitute في differentiation. So question number C, the x is given but it is given indirectly. It is given indirectly. فأنا هنا يا جماعة what do I do? Okay, I am given the y. So I took my y value and I substituted it in the original equation, leading to this equation over here. طبعا quadratic equals 0. You immediately pick out your calculators. تمام. And use modify 3. 4 equals negative 4 equals 1. يعني you factorize يعني من الآخر. Now I have one x only, which is x to the power of half. طبعا if you remember, when you have 1 fraction only, a one number only from your calculator, you substitute it twice in your bracket. فأنا دلوقتي I have my x أهي. خلصت كده يعني؟ لا. I will take this x and I will substitute it in the differentiation. I will take the x and substitute in the differentiation. فهتبقى 8 times half minus 4 equals to كام؟ 0. اهو طلعت بزيرو. ميس ينفع تطلع بزيرو؟ ينفع تطلع بزيرو عادي يعني. Okay? So this is the first type of questions اهو اللي هو when I differentiate I find the value of x. تمام كده؟ Sorry, when I differentiate I will substitute in it to find the gradient. Sometimes the x is given very clearly as you can see, but sometimes the x is given لف ودوران. لف ودوران يعني I was given the y, عملت substitution, I used factorization to find the x, and then I substituted in the differentiation. And this is the first type of questions, which is quite simple يعني. Let's move on to the second type of questions related to اللي هو بعد ما بطلع dy by dx, after I find dy by dx. Now, after I find dy by dx, the questions might be, this is type 2, هنقول مثلا this is type 2 of questions. Type 2 of questions might be related to finding the turning point. Finding the turning point. الأول خلينا نقف بس شوية عند turning point دي ونركز فيها. What is the turning point? Now, if I have a U-shape open up, if I have a U-shape open down, if I have a curve that goes up and down بالشكل ده, these points selected over here, they are very special points. Why? Let's remember the names that apply to these points. This point over here, according to what we explained in harder graphs and in completing the square, this is a minimum point. طب what other word applies? Vertex. What other word applies? Stationary. أنا بقول الكلام ده عشان الكلام ده مهم. Stationary. What other word applies? Turning point. وليه اسمها turning point؟ يعني عشان لو حابين تعرفوا إنه الكيرف at this point هو كان going down, after this point it's starting going left, فهو لف عندها حود. Okay, so minimum, vertex, stationary, turning point. طب دي maximum, turning point, stationary, vertex. طب هنا maximum and minimum, stationary, turning points, vertex. Please don't you forget these words at all. دول مهمين جدا جدا جدا. طيب, what is so special about the turning points? What is so special about the turning points is that if I draw a tangent, امشي يا ابني. If I draw a tangent at the turning point, it's the horizontal line. If I draw a tangent at the turning point, it's a horizontal line. I'm using a pen called a smart pen. لذيذ قوي. يعني بصوا لو عملت دايرة يبقى كده. طب لو عملت heart ما قراهوش أصلا. ليه يا حبيبي كده؟ Okay, it didn't. Anyways, هنا أهو if I draw a tangent at the turning point, so it's a horizontal line. If I draw a tangent at the turning point, it's a horizontal line. What is so special about the tangents drawn at the turning points? What is so special? Please يا جماعة, this is بقى extremely important. بتيجي بقى كتير. What is so special about the tangents drawn at the turning points is that all of these lines are horizontal, therefore the gradient is 0. Any tangent drawn at the turning points is a horizontal, so the gradient is 0. هنا gradient is 0, هنا gradient is 0. Since these lines are horizontal and these lines are drawn at the turning points, so the gradient is 0, so the differentiation is 0. The differentiation is 0. So always and forever, whenever you are dealing with the question related to turning point, minimum, maximum, stationary, vertex, 3 steps ملهمش تالت ملهمش رابع. أول حاجة always and forever the differentiation is equal to 0. And since it says turning point يعني order pair x and y. You find the x and then you find the y by substitution in the original equation. طيب تعالوا نشوف الإكزامبل ده اللي هو اللي أنا شغالة عليه ده أهو. So let's assume the question over here said find the turning point. أنا already طلعت الديفرنشيشن بتاعي أهو. What do I do next? What is my answer? أهو. Step number 1 differentiation equals to 0. تاني why؟ لأنه any tangent drawn at the turning point is a horizontal line. Any horizontal line has a gradient of 0, therefore it has a differentiation of 0. So this is step number 1. طبعا المنطق بيقول after step number 1 إن أنا I find x. طبعا how do I find the x هنا is super easy. هودي ال 5 الناحية التانية and then I divide by 2. So x is -5/2. This is my x coordinate. And since the question says find the turning point, I must find the value of y. How do I find the value of y? I find the value of y by substitution in the original equation. ويا ريت يا جماعة نفرق بقى إيه في الكلام. To find the y coordinate always and forever, I substitute in the original equation. الأصفر اللي أنا بكتب بيه ده. هنقول y equals -5/2 all squared plus 5 times -5/2 plus 6 وأحطها على الكالكوليتر. أوكي أهو دي 5/2 يعني 2.5 صح؟ -2.5 power 2 plus 5 times -2.5 plus 6 equals -1/4. So step number 3 بقى is the order pair أهو. So my order pair is -5/2 و -1/4. -5/2 and -1/4. Okay? يبقى to find the turning point, minimum, maximum, stationary vertex, as we said, these are the 3 steps that you follow always and forever. Differentiation equals 0, find the value of x, and then find the value of y by substitution in the original equation. الناس بقى اللي بتحب تفهم and to link information مع بعض, this U shape is open up. حلو? So if I wish to sketch, لا مش هعمله كده. If I wish to sketch this U shape, تمام, order pair, أو this is the vertex of the U shape, -5/2 is here somewhere, -1/4 is here somewhere. So this is my vertex, ده ال U shape بتاعي. دي هنا -5/2 ودي هنا -1/4. حلو? Now if you remember we discussed this in the topic completing the square. لو جه قال لي الإكزامينر بعد كده find the line of symmetry. Where do you think is the line of symmetry? The line of symmetry, if you remember, is a vertical line أهو that goes through the vertex. The line of symmetry is a vertical line that goes through the vertex. So since it's a vertical line, LS يعني line of symmetry, then the equation is x equals. طيب x equals كام؟ هو معدي على ال x axis at -5/2, so the line of symmetry is x equals -5/2. تمام? And this is a question related to turning point. مش points, point. Now let's take an example in the notes related to this part over here. You can pause the video and solve the question and then check your answer. Okay? فاحنا خلصنا خلاص الصفحة دي. تعالوا نروح على الصفحة دي اللي هي page number 310 in the notes. Page number 310 in the notes, as we said, you can pause, solve it, and then check your answers. هنا بقى بيقول لي طبعا this is a bit different. هنا بيقول لي a curve has equation 7 plus 6x minus 2x power 2. Now, if you remember, when the x power 2 is negative, then this is a U shape open down. Yeah, but this point over here is a maximum. Okay. Question AI says, find dy by dx. طبعا let's remember the 3 cases that we discussed today. قلنا for constant values, your differentiation is 0. For linear expressions, linear يعني x power 1, your differentiation is شيل ال x. And لو الباور مش 1 قلنا هنزل أضرب إيه minus 1. ف 2 times -2, -4. x to the power of a 1. طبعا احنا اكيد مش هنكتب الزيرو ده يعني. So your differentiation is 6 minus 4x. That's your differentiation. 6 minus 4x. ودلوقتي يا جماعة, as we said, what are we focused on? We are focused on questions related to turning point. هنا بقى بيقول لي find the coordinates of the turning point. Now, please, whenever you see this word, always remember تاني turning, minimum, maximum, stationary vertex. Differentiation equals 0. Find x, and then you find y by substitution in the original equation. So this is question double I اهو. In question double I, step number 1 will be differentiation equals to 0. المنطق بيقول find the value of x. طبعا ال 4x الناحية الثانية. 4x equals to 6. So x equals 6 over 4, and the simplest form is 3 على 2 or 1.5. You want to keep as fraction, you want to keep as decimal, it is totally up to you. Since the question says find turning point, يبقى I must find the value of y. And how do I find this? Is step 1, or no, this is step 2. Step number 3, how do I find the value of y? As we said, we always substitute in the original equation. And let me just highlight the original equation to show it to you. This is the original equation over here. فهنقول بقى y equals 7 plus 6 times 1.5 minus 2 times 1.5 squared. وأحطها على الكالكوليتر. 7 plus 6 times 1.5 minus 2 times 1.5 power 2. فهتطلع لي الإجابة 11.5. Now, some of you للأسف they forget the final answer. ما هو the question says find the turning point. So the final answer must be an order pair بالشكل ده. So the final answer over here is going to be 1.5 and a 11.5. Okay, this is the turning point. Again, الناس بقى اللي بتحب تفهم وتلينك المعلومات مع بعض. If I wish to sketch this U shape, the vertex is at 1.5 هنا مثلا و 11.5 هنا. طبعا this is totally not to scale, and this is a U shape that is open up بالشكل ده. ده كده هنا عندي 1.5 وهنا عندي ايه 11.5. Question B بقى says what? Question B says state with a reason whether this turning point is a maximum or a minimum. طبعا definitely that we know that this is اللي أنا عملته ده going down. يا لهوي. Sorry. This is a maximum. Why it is a maximum? ايه ماكسي ايه كل اللي انا كاتباه ده؟ اصل عارفين سرحت في ايه؟ عماله افكر وعايزه اعمل كوبايه شاي، بعدين قلت ايه شاي بلبن، طبعا انتوا عارفين عشقي وغرامي. بعد كده قلت مش هينفع اوقف الفيديو واقوم، فعشان كده سرحت. find طبعا قلنا since the x power 2 is negative او since the coefficient of x power 2 is negative 2, then this point over here is a maximum point. يبقى الكيرف ده نازل لتحت كده بالشكل ده. So sorry guys. نيجي بقى على هنا question number C. Question C says find the equation of the line of symmetry. Now the equation of the line of symmetry always and forever for U shapes is a vertical line that goes down بالشكل ده. ايه الشكل ده؟ مش بقول لكم الشاي بلبن مسيطر عليا. Okay. It's a vertical line, and since it's a vertical line then it is always x equal, and x equal what? X equals this value over here. X equals 1.5. تمام. So this is a question related to turning point. Point واحدة. طيب هل ده يا مس معناه إنه في مسائل turning points؟ أيوه في مسائل turning points. أنا بس همسح ده علشان أنا عايزة البيج دي تبقى summary ل طبعا خدوا بالكم إنه الأسئلة دي يعني هنا هنقول إيه ده كده خلاص. إحنا عندنا هنا ممكن أكتبها لكم هنا إنه يعني أنا في المسألة دي بالذات ما ينفعش يقول لي turning points، بس for another type of questions يعني other equations بقى for another equations for other questions عشان برضو أبقى بكتب الكلام صح. for other questions أو مش other questions for other equations for other equations. Okay, the question بقى, this is all related to type 2 by the way. For other equations the question might be مش turning point بقى، turning points. turning points يعني 2. Okay, for other equations it could be turning point. طيب, how do I know it's a turning point or the question is turning points? Turning point after your differentiate, عشان الناس اللي بتحب تفهم, your differentiation will be a linear equation, and a linear equation is an equation that has power 1. Turning points, your differentiation will mostly be a quadratic equation. طيب, do the steps change? لا, the steps don't change. The steps are the same. الفكرة بس إن إحنا هنا we will solve a quadratic equation. تمام كده؟ ومعظم المسائل بتاعة ال turning points بيبقى الكيرف بتاعي طالع ونازل بالشكل ده، وهنشوف دلوقتي. يبقى what is the second type of questions related to type 2? قلنا for other equations. Okay, let me just pick a highlighter. For other equations, I did not take the highlighter. ماشي خلاص مش مشكلة. For other equations, تمام كده؟ أهو for other equations. تمام. When you differentiate, your differentiation will be a quadratic equation and the steps will be exactly the same. The only difference is that أنا وأنا هsolve quadratic equation. تمام كده؟ طيب. وعلى فكرة هو في السؤال بيقول لي turning point أو turning points, فأنا مش محتاجة إن أنا أتوتر. Now let's look an example related to this part over here, and actually now I'm going to move on to the classified part 1. Classified part 1, page number 231. Okay, classified part 1, page 231. And I think I will stop this video and then I will create another video for other types of questions عشان الفيديو ما يبقاش طويل قوي, لأنه صراحة أنا يعني برضو بحب أسمع الكومنتس, فلما الفيديو بيبقى طويل أحيانا الولاد بيزهقوا, فهعمل كذا فيديو, ما تقلقوش على كل حاجة. Okay, so this is classified part 1 as we said, page number 231. Okay, طيب. فهنا بقى أهو the question here says find dy by dx. فأنا بقى I differentiate normally بقى خلاص زي ما عرفنا. طبعا هنا the coefficient is 1. how do I differentiate بقى as we said? قلنا هنزل أضرب minus 1. 3 times 1 is 3. x must be written 3 minus 1 is 2. وبعد كده هنزل أضرب minus 1. 2 times negative 9 على 2 is negative 9. x to the power of 1. وبعد كده قلنا when the power of x is 1, your differentiation is شيل ال x, and for constant values your differentiation is 0. So this is the differentiation over here. And as you can see, طبعا it has to be written here. 3x power 2 minus 9x minus 54. Please always remember to write your answer in the space provided. طبعا you've earned the all 2 marks. Now let's look at this question over here. بيقول لي هنا إيه بقى؟ The curve with equation كذا has 2 turning points. برضو الناس اللي بتحب تفهم يا جماعة, the equation that has descending powers بالشكل ده, اللي هي the equation that is written in this form. Let me go to the whiteboard. The equation that is written in this form, ax power 3 plus or minus bx power 2 plus or minus cx plus or minus d, the equation with a maximum power of 3 بتبقى عاملة كده, طالعة ونازلة. Okay, this is how it looks like. تمام. Up and down بيبقى هنا عندي 2 turning points, وقلنا at the turning points the differentiation is a 0. طيب, فهنا بقى بيقول لي ايه? The curve with كذا كذا has 2 turning points. قلنا بقى خلاص, this is a keyword بالنسبة لي. قلنا differentiation equals 0. Find x, find y by substitution in the original equation. بس الquestion هنا لطيف. The question here says find the x coordinate بس احنا هنكملها يعني علشان هنعتبرها explain an example. طبعا if the question says find the x بس, يبقى أنا I find the x بس. أنا بس زي ما بقول لكم عشان بشرح. طيب, so how do I proceed from there? هنعمل هنا كده أهو. I will take my differentiation and I will equate it to 0. Take my differentiation and I will equate it to 0. طبعا most of you do the following. بيعملوا mod 5-3 على طول. And this is actually what I'm going to do now. بس I'm going to do it وأنا زعلانة, لأنه هشرح حاجة كده في النص. فحضراتكم هتعملوا كده mod 5-3. Okay, 3 equals negative 9 equals negative 54. And يا مس بصي خلاص عادي اهو ده الفاكتورايزيشن بتاعي equals to 0. لو واخدين بالكم انا سايبه دي فاضيه. فهنا I will get x minus 6 and then I will get another value over here x plus 3. طبعا if you remember the steps اللي هي either the first is 0 or the second is 0. So my x values are 6 and negative 3. Now, why did I leave this part empty? I left this part empty لأنه المفروض إن أنا I'm an O-level student. فالمفروض إن أنا I understand إنه if I multiply my factorization, I should get this expression over here or this equation over here. But if you look بقى هتلاقوا إنه if I multiply my factorization, x times x is x power 2. But هنا it is 3x power 2. Why is that? Because as an O-level student, you have to remember that in equations, if you can simplify, do that. In equations, if you can simplify, do that. فأنا هنا I will divide the whole equation by 3. طب يا مس ناخد common. لا. Differentiate يعني في equations you can divide. If it's an expression, you take common. فأنا هنا I divide by 3. And why am I allowed to do that? Because as we said, it's an equation. فدي هتبقى هنا اهو x power 2 minus 3x minus 54 minus 18 equals to كام؟ equals to 0. So this بقى makes sense. كده أنا كلامي منطقي. تمام؟ وما حدش يسألني سؤال طب مثل لو ما كتبتهاش في الامتحان هنقص؟ هتنقصه. عشان السؤال ده بتسأله على طول. Now الإجابة بتاعتي makes sense. So back to our differentiation. Differentiation equals 0. Why did we do that? Because it said here 2 turning points. The question says find the x of the 2 turning points. So my x's are 6 and negative 3. اهو خلاص ده كده خلصت. طيب what if اهو what if the question says find the coordinates of the points. Find the coordinates of these points. فساعتها I will have to find the values of y. And how do I find the values of y? To find the values of y, I substitute in the original equation. طيب, which of these values will I substitute? I will substitute both. فهتبقى 6 power 3 minus 9 على 2, 6 power 2 minus 54 times 6 plus 10. And I will substitute with the other value, negative 3 power 3. ويا ريت يا جماعة والنبي, whenever you're dealing with negative powers, just put them between brackets and the power is outside, especially if the power is even, negative 3 plus 10. وهنحسبها على الكالكوليتر. ده هنقول if the question says find the values, find the coordinates. فهنحسبها 6 power 3 minus 9 على 2. بكره الحسابات الطويلة. 6 squared minus 54 times 6 plus 10. هيطلع كده. سيبها تاني معلش. Let me just make sure عشان بس ما تبقاش والنبي أنا حاسبة حاجة غلط. 3x power 2 وهنا عندي minus 9x minus 54. تمام. طيب mod 5 3. Okay, 3 equals negative 9 equals negative 54. 6 و negative 3. تمام. Okay, let's substitute بقى in the original equation. 6 power 3 minus 9 على 2 times 6 power 2 minus 54 times 6 plus 10. طلع negative 260. Okay. Negative 260. طيب, if it is negative 3, خلينا نشوف الإجابة إزاي. Negative 3. وهنا هشيل بقى وأحط negative 3 برضو. Same substitution بس negative 3. وهنا أحط برضو negative 3 power 3 طلع 104.05. But the order pairs will be 6 and negative 260 و negative 3 and 104.5. That if the question says find the coordinates of the turning points. If the question says find the coordinates of the turning points. تمام كده؟ طيب, let's take one more example related to this part in the notes, and this will be the end of this video. عشان كده فعلا الفيديو هيبقى طويل قوي لو أنا كملت الcases. ممكن أعمله فيديو تاني مش مشكلة. Let's go back to the notes and solve a question related to the turning points, which is this question over here in the notes, page number 317. In the notes, page number 317, another question related to turning points. هنا أهو بيقول لي ده برضو you can pause and solve. بيقول لي the diagram shows the graph كذا كذا كذا. A is a maximum, B is a minimum. أهو, these are keywords. These are very, very important keywords that, as we said, the differentiation is equal to 0. Now, question number AI says find dy by dx. I guess بقى خلاص دلوقتي you know how to differentiate. dy by dx is 3x power 2 انزل اضرب minus 1 minus 6x minus 9. أهو, this is the differentiation. Now, question double I said find the x coordinates of A and B. Now, تاني يا جماعة for the last time, إنه when we differentiate أهو, sorry, at the turning points, on the tangents drawn are horizontal, so the gradients are 0. هو بقى عايز الx بتاعة point A وعايز الx بتاعة point B. Now, at the turning points, as we said, differentiation is equal to 0. 3x power 2 minus 6x minus 9 equals to 0. Again, since we are super smart O-level students, since I have the chance of simplifying, please do that. So this changes into x power 2 minus 2x minus 3 equals to كام? Equals to 0. Now I factorize, getting 2x values equals negative 2 equals negative 3. فهنا عندي x equals to 3 and the other x is negative 1. طبعا you must factorize يا جماعة, and you have to show the factorization steps. So these are my x values. طبعا if I wish to know which x belongs to which point, طبعا since A is on the negative part of the x-axis, so the A has negative 1 and the B takes the positive coordinate. So A has negative 1 and B has the x coordinates. أهو. طيب تعالوا بقى نشوف دلوقتي question double I قال لي find the x بس. Sometimes the exam, ما هي مشكلة ال O level التويستنج في الكلام. أحيانا الكلام بيبقى twisted كده. هنا بقى بيقول لي إيه؟ The line y equals k. إيه ده؟ إيه الهري ده؟ Now we discussed this in the topic اللي بيسموه harder graphs. The line y equals k, if you remember, this is a horizontal line. Okay. فهو بيقول لي there is a horizontal line where k is a number. يعني في عندي y equals 5, y equals 3, y equals 4, y equals هنشوف. فهو بيقول لي the line y equals k is where k is a number. يعني there is a horizontal line such that this horizontal line is a tangent. Oh. يعني أنت بتتكلم على دول؟ أنا بتكلم على دول. طيب عايز إيه منهم؟ Find the two possible values of k. يعني من الآخر هو بيقول لي this line cuts the y-axis فين and this tangent cuts the y-axis فين. طب ما تقول يا عم find the coordinates of the turning point من الأول ونخلص. لا, بس there has to be some sort of twisting and turning in the questions. فهنا أهو بيقول لي find the two possible values of k. How did I confirm that the highlighted pink is the required lines? عشان هو قال لي tangents. And these are the only possible tangents that could be drawn. تمام كده؟ طيب هنحل بقى هنا عندي. تمام؟ وبعد كده بقى هنعمل ايه؟ substitute قلنا in the original equation دي. I will substitute both my x values. So y equals 3 power 3 minus 3 times 3 squared minus 9 times 3 plus 8. ومرة بالنيجاتيف 1. y equals negative 1 power 2 minus 3, negative 1 power 3 minus 3 times negative 1 power 2 minus 9 times negative 1 plus ال 8. وهحطهم على الكالكوليتر واحسبهم. مود 1. يا ربي 3 power 3. وانا في المدرسه بقى بقعد بقى ايه اقول للعيال احسبوا انتوا احسبوا انتوا ويقعدوا يطلعوا عيني قبل ما يحسبوا. minus 9 times 3. اوكي, فدي هتطلع هنا negative 19 So منطقي إنه دي هنا تبقى negative value. اوكي وكتير بخاف ابقى حاسب حاجه غلط 3 باور 3 minus 3 times 3 squared minus تمام ومره بالنيجاتيف 1 negative 1 باور 3 negative 1 باور 3 اوكي minus 3 times negative 1 باور 2 minus 9 times negative 1 plus 8 طلعت لي 13 اهو طلعت 13 and of course it makes sense إنه ال A and ال 13. So this is another question related to turning points. طبعا يا جماعة there are so many ideas related to turning points into بس you just need to يعني look for the keywords and remember them very well. Okay. طيب if you wish to practice more on turning point questions and on differentiation, you please refer to classifieds part 1 and part 3. تمام refer to classifieds part 1 and part 3. The last thing I'm going to say this على فكرة الكالكولس ما خلصتش ده بس كده بس video number 1. Okay. The last thing that I want to say before we get into the next videos لما أخذنا يا جماعة الإيكويشن اللي هي دي فينها راحت فين الأوريجينال إيكويشن بس this is just one thing I want to say before I end this video. Y equals x power 2 plus 5x plus 6 and the differentiation is 2x plus 5. جميل. Please يا جماعة remember this note قبل ما أخلص this video. When an x value is given, if I substitute the x value in the original equation, I get a y coordinate. I get a y coordinate. يعني I can get a complete order pair بالشكل ده. If I have an x value and I substitute in the differentiation, what do I get? I get the gradient of the tangent. I get the gradient of the tangent. So x in original gives y, x in differentiation gives the gradient. And this is the end of video part 1. And I will finish, inshallah, the rest of the videos and upload as soon as I can. Thank you.